Hi everyone and welcome. Today I would like to talk about glimmers, yes to life, and what does it mean to live from our soul. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Lana and I'm a body-oriented psychotherapist. On this channel we are talking about embodiment, soulfulness and personal development. So first I would like to define what are glimmers as opposed to triggers. Glimmers are these states that activate our parasympathetic nervous system, which means this ventral vagal state where we feel relaxed and eager to connect. And these could be like the smell of the ocean, the sun on our skin, a beautiful connection, laughter, something that reminds us of this inner connection that is embodied. We feel it on the level of our body, as opposed to triggers that activate this fight or flight response inside of us. And glimmers are something that we can acknowledge, that we can invite, and that we can fully sense on a body level. And it is a huge resource to understand what activates these ventral vagal states, what helps us be in that connection. Because what in fact are we connected to? We're connected to this inner being that we are. And the more we practice glimmers, the more we live it. You know, joy and happiness is not when we have achieved something, although it also can be. It's not chasing success. It's actually allowing these small moments of glimmers to be there, to embody them and to acknowledge them. And I often am asking myself and people I work with, how do you perceive your soul? How does your soul speak to you? And often our soul speaks to us through these small moments of presence, when we feel embodied and when we feel this flow of aliveness, when we feel like we are not restricting life, but we are allowing it to flow. And that brings me to something else that I want to talk about, and that is yes to life. What does it mean? You know, if I could summarize this personal development into two sentences, I would say in every action that we take, in every thought, in every impulse that we have, we are either saying yes to life or we are saying no to life. And to understand our no is to understand that our no is usually when we are resisting the flow of life. Resistance of the flow of life is actually a protection. So we are not resisting life because there's something wrong with that. There's not something to be fixed. It's to understand that our no is actually a resource, because if life is threatening, if life is not safe, of course we're gonna armor ourselves and resist it. But what happens is that we are resisting also the flow of aliveness. We're also resisting the flow of presence and the flow of our soulfulness. So that is why it's so important to learn about our no, but also not to over-focus on that, but to really see where is our yes to life. How are we saying yes to life in our everyday life? When I wake up in the morning, what is my yes? How can I be more in life? Maybe I just need a couple of deep breaths to feel myself. Maybe I really want to have that cup of coffee and really observe myself. Have this ritual that would help me become more present in the day. Maybe I will go for a run. Now, what I want to say is that all of these activities that I named can be in service of our yes, but it can also be against our yes, because why am I having that coffee? Because I need that caffeine boost, because I feel like I need to wake up and start my day and conquer the world, or do I really want to allow myself this moment of having this sip of warm liquid and feel myself? Do I go for a run because that would help me be more present with myself, because I love the way it feels in my body and on my skin, or because I feel like I need to be more productive, like I need to lose weight, or like I'm not good enough if I don't have a morning routine? So where is my yes? How do I feel it in my body? You know, yes can also mean that we need to make some difficult decisions, like we need to end our toxic relationship. And that is not easy. Sometimes saying yes to ourselves is getting out of our comfort zone, making a difficult choices, also sometimes making some sacrifices. In order to stay healthy, maybe we need to give up on processed and unhealthy food. But maybe also we are choosing healthy food because we can't accept ourselves. We are denying ourselves. We feel like we need to restrict ourselves because we don't trust ourselves. Are we really saying yes to life then when we're choosing healthy food? And that is something to really feel within. How do I say yes to life? What does yes mean to me? How do I feel this inner light shining? You know, when I say yes to life, I allow my light to shine. What do I do today that would help me be in the flow, that would help me shine my light? And that brings me to, how do I really want to live my life as a soul that I am, so that I don't just live from my ego. And I'm not here to please my ego wants. I am here to really live life as a souled being that I am. And for that, we need to understand what is the language of our soul. You know, for me, my soul usually speaks through fantasy. And I remember when I was on a trip to Scotland, I felt this yearning there. I felt like home. And I have no connection to Scotland. I have no ancestors there. I was there only once in my life. But the yearning inside my body was so strong that I really asked myself, what is happening? Why do I yearn for home, for this? Where is this longing coming from? And I realized there's just something in the air there that, for me, it helped me connect to this fantasy part that comes from my soul. And it's so beautiful to have this experiencing of traveling to some places where we feel more connected. But then again, it's also a matter, how do I embody it in my everyday life? How can I be more connected to my soul on an everyday basis? Now, I can only share my experience. It is up to you to really feel, how does your soul want to live through you and as you? For me, a huge part of that is to be an aunt to my nieces and nephews. When I'm with them, I really feel that it comes from my soul, that connection to those kids. It's really when I feel this level of home and presence, where I feel something that is so ancient and deep inside of me, and I allow it to flow and to live through me. When I'm with them, I feel like a storyteller. I feel like I'm present with this inner wisdom. I really embody this archetype of a wise ant, if it makes sense. For me, it's also when I'm in sessions with my clients. I feel like when I'm with them, my heart is really open, and there's no place I'd rather be than to listening to all of these stories. How is somebody protecting themselves from life? But even more than that, how is somebody choosing their life? To really witness people, how they say yes to their life and embody their essence. It's, for me, such a privilege, and it brings me to this sense of humbleness to be able to do that. It's also when I write my fantasy novel, when I connect to all of these characters, to these lands that don't exist in this realm, but for me they're very real. And when it comes to writing this novel, it was very interesting because people who have read it, they all have had a different experience of it. And to be able to witness that something that came straight from my soul also has awakened another people's connection to their own soul. It's just such a privilege and honor to be able to do that. And these all things, it makes me more present. It makes me grateful. It makes me more embodied It makes me more sensual and in the flow. It makes this life worth living. Because when you think about it, what is in fact a life worth living? Is it to be rich, to have some of these things we feel like we need to have in order to be worthy of life? Or is it when we really live as a soul that we are, through this human body, through this human mind, but most importantly, through this human heart? For me, that is the essence of beauty of this life of being a human, to be able to live as a soul. I will leave you a link in the description of this video where you can go on a journey on the guided experience, how to be connected to your soul, so that you can have an embodied experience. If you really want to go deeper into all of what we were talking about here today, I will also leave you a link for my online program, The Spark of Life. Now there, we are really diving into the experience of how am I turning my back to my light, and how to say yes to life. How am I saying yes, and how can I really be present? How do I want to create life? What is the part of me that is creating this life, and what makes me unique? Thank you so much for being here.